I have been waiting and waiting and waiting for people to ask me questions about childbirth. None of you have any questions. I'm assuming you all know everything. A friend of mine asked me to go over what I did and what happened during my pregnancy and labor and delivery and all that, so I guess I'm going to do that. So thank you for the request, Rachel, the only one. Anyway, she mentioned cord clamping, which is, for those of you that don't know, which I'm assuming you all know, because nobody asked me anything. Cord clamping is where they take the umbilical cord after birth while the baby is still attached to the placenta, and inside that is, blood and stem cells and all the good stuff for baby. And you can either cut it early and freeze it and use it to have stem cells, like if, God forbid, your baby get cancer one day, you have stem cells saved. Or you could delay your cord clamping and let all the good stuff go into the baby. I always preferred to delay cord clamp. I didn't really get a choice in most of mine. For one, my first baby, the doctor just kind of looked over my birth plan and did what he could. I was being induced. My hips didn't spread. The baby got stuck. He did what he could. And I was in so much pain afterwards that I didn't even notice whether or not he waited, to be honest. So my second one, though, he come out too fast. I was having contractions, and they tell you to wait for 3 hours here. Some doctors say 5 minutes or less for an hour. Some say constant contractions for 3 hours. Well, I don't have real bad contractions for early labor, so I didn't even feel them until they were about 5 minutes apart. So I went 5 minutes apart for 3 hours. So by the time I got to labor and delivery, they were like, "You're not in labor. You're not even crying. I mean, you're not in enough pain to be in labor." And so by the time they took me seriously and took me to labor and delivery, he was crowning. Like, I walked through the hospital with him crowning. And then my third one, I left my birth plan in the car because I was alone and I had 2 kids and I was trying to get somebody to come babysit my kids. Oh, it was a long story. Anyway, so I don't know if I cord clamped ever. I wanted to. It was on my birth plan. Don't know if I did. In my opinion, it's best for baby to get all the beneficial stuff from the start. I think, personally, that reduces the chance of needing the stem cells later. Some people don't. So I tried to cord clamp. I tried to delay the cord clamping. Let's see, what else? Some people want to know if you poop the table. I did once. I don't know if I did the other 2 times because, to be honest, the doctor's not going to tell you because they see it all the time. The nurses are not going to tell you because they see it all the time. The only person that's going to tell you is some family members that you let in there. When my first baby, like I said, he got stuck. I was pushing really hard. I pooped the table. I wouldn't have known about it had my sister not went, "Oh my gosh, she just pooped." So, thanks, Susan. My second baby, I don't know if I did. My husband wasn't looking. I had to go naturally because he comes so fast. And so I was in a lot of pain. My husband wasn't looking down there. And my third baby, it was just me and the doctors and the nurses in the room. And they're not going to tell you because they see it all the time. It's not nothing to them. They're not going to be like, "Oh my gosh, you just did." Because that's routine for them. So I know that I did once. I don't know if I did for the other 2. Let's see. Something else that gets asked a lot is that really nasty glucose drink. And people make a really big deal about it, but men always ask me. Like, I had a therapist ask me one time, I was being seen for postpartum depression and pregnancy anxiety, or pregnancy-related anxiety. And not like I was nervous about having a baby. I've had a baby before, but like the hormones and everything was giving me anxiety. I couldn't function very well. Anyway, and he actually stopped and asked me about the drink. Like, but it's not what everybody thinks it is. It's not like this terrible... It's not... Okay, like when I first got it, I was afraid it was going to be like the milky stuff that they give you before a CAT scan, or taste like cough syrup or something like that, and it's not. It's just... If you guys like mixed drinks, the simple syrup that you put in a mixed drink, it's like that, except for it's like double the sugar, and then it tastes like a chemical orange. Like the nasty chemical orange that they flavor like Sunkissed with, except for not as good, I guess. And they just poured that into some syrup, and then you gotta drink it. And it gives you a stomach ache almost immediately. And like, honestly, with my second baby, when I had the glucose test, I had to go sit in the lab in an empty lab chair with my head between my legs and a bucket at my feet because I nearly puked. But I also was just barely above normal for the diabetes test then. So that could have been another reason, is because I wasn't handling sugar very well during that. I did not have to take insulin or anything or change my diet or anything, but I would get really like shaky and weak after I had food or drink. So I really limited myself when I was pregnant with my second to just eating the 3 meals a day, and then I would have to rest afterwards. So that's another thing too, is that you can have issues with sugar and not actually be gestational diabetic. Let's see. I was hoping y'all would come up with some really gross stuff. That would have been so fun. Just talk about all the gross stuff. And it is gross. Ooh, like your mucus plug. That's fun. Okay. Let's see. The mucus plug is this little ball of basically snot in your cervix, keeping stuff away from the baby. So like, not that you should do this, but like if I were to go swimming in the backwater when I was pregnant, nothing could get up to the baby because of the mucus plug. But that mucus plug has got to go. Well, during dilation and everything, it does go. I personally knew when mine fell out, like there is a lot of mucus going on down there and discharge and all that nasty stuff going on down there. But in my experience, it was different because the mucus plug was green. Some people have a really light colored mucus plug and they can't tell it from the other discharge, but I can. And that just because you lose it does not mean you're going to go into labor. With my third, I lost my mucus plug probably like 10 weeks before he was due. But normally it is when you start dilating or he or she starts dropping is when you're going to lose it. And I did dilate early. I was at 1 for a good month and a half before he was born. So, there's that. My husband asked how it feels like to breastfeed. And that's another thing, is that, you know, breast or bottle, or as long as your baby's getting fed, good for you. Some people can't breastfeed, some people don't want to breastfeed, some people have to pump. I exclusively breastfeed because when I was pregnant with my first, I was 100% going to bottle feed. Everybody in my family bottle feeds. Nobody breastfed in my family, and I didn't see the point in it, except for when I was pregnant with Lucas, my oldest. There was a recall on formula. The brand of formula that I had planned on buying was supposed to be like the best formula, and I can't remember what it was now. I want to say, I can't even remember. There was a recall, and it was, it had like brain-eating bacteria in it. Wait a minute, no, that was when I was pregnant. The first time, though, it was a recall because there was salmonella in it. Yeah, it was salmonella. And it freaked me out. And I did some research and I found out that there is no FDA regulation on baby formula. And I was like, I'm not giving that to my child. So I breastfed. And I had great success with breastfeeding. My body was very well adapted for breastfeeding. And that's why we were able to continue with it. Some people can't, some people don't. That's fine. And I do exclusively breastfeed because I'm not having to lug around bottles. I'm not having to set myself up to a machine 30 minutes, you know, every now and then. It's like the milk is always here. The bottles are always warm. The bottles are always full. That's why I did that. Some people can't, some people don't. Some people pump and freeze, and that's fine. A benefit of formula that's not in breast milk is vitamin D, obviously. Freezing breast milk does have some benefits that formula doesn't, but also as it freezes and thaws, some of the good bacteria and nutrients and things die off. So that's something else to think about. But I mean, it's all good. You're getting stuff from breast milk that you're not in formula, even if you freeze it, and you're getting vitamin D if you use formula. So it's as long as your baby's fed and full. So breastfeeding, what it feels like, I don't really know how to describe it. I mean, it feels like somebody's sucking your breast, but not like, I guess in your brain you just sort of, it doesn't feel sexual, I guess is what I'm trying to get out. Honestly, now most of the time I can't even feel it unless I'm having a letdown. Like, your nipples really desensitize. They're not as sensitive when you're breastfeeding, which is a good thing, especially when they start getting teeth, or when, you know, they're going through a growth spurt and you're feeding forever. I can't feel it unless I'm having a letdown, and what a letdown is when your breast squirts milk out on their own. And those kind of hurt. Some people don't feel them. Some people feel them more than others. Mine hurt. It's like this sharp pain in the mammary gland, triggering it to shoot out milk, I guess. I don't know. I can't, like, they go. Let's see, anything else? What does it feel like when you have a contraction is one that I hear a lot. And it's like when you've got diarrhea. That's really gross, but like, you know, the cramps when you get diarrhea, it's like that, but it goes all the way around and into your back. And then they get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger until you feel like your stomach is going to rip open. And then as the baby drops, you start to feel it in your bum. And it feels like your bum's going to rip open, which is fun. Oh, yeah. Can you feel it with an epidural? Sometimes. Doctors don't like to tell you that they can give you more or less of an epidural. But I found out during my first baby because I had back labor. And I don't guess that they realized that it was back labor until it was too late. But I kept saying, I hurt. Even after I got the epidural. And so they upped my epidural several times until he said that if he upped it anymore, I wouldn't know how to push. So there's that. I did not get such a strong epidural with my last one. I didn't get any epidural with my middle one, but my last one I didn't get as strong of an epidural. I was going to go natural, but like I labored longer and it hurt really bad. Like it hurt. It was the worst one. And I didn't get as strong of an epidural, and so I felt a lot of it, but it wasn't near what it could have been. Just from my middle one, I could tell the difference. Like it still hurt really bad, but it wasn't. I don't know. I might think of some more questions later and come back on, but